Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben Baker and I would like to give you some tips on growing tomatoes. I'll start off with when you plant them, you want to take off a couple of the lower leaves on it and plant it deep. Make sure you got some of the plant sticking out of the soil, that way it can grow, but the part that you put in the ground is all going to start sprouting roots, and you'll get a lot more nutrition to your tomato by getting those extra roots. Another thing, when you plant them, make sure you put some eggshells or some bone meal or some kind of calcium in the hole, and that way when they're producing, they won't get the blossom end rot, and you'll get healthier, stronger plants. Yeah, because that calcium, they need that. Staking and pruning. One of the things that keeps your tomato plants from getting sick is keeping them off the ground. That's actually why, as you can see, I take off the bottom leaves. That way they're not drooping onto the ground, and there's no way for disease to, spread from the little weeds in their ground. Right here, I guess this one is touching the ground a little bit, but these are nice and strong anyway, so I'm not worried about it. The main thing is they're really, really healthy, and they also avoid disease resistance that way. So the way I keep them off the ground is by keeping them nice and clean, and then putting them close to the stake, and then tying it loosely with fabric. The reason I tie it loosely is if you tie it too tight, you might actually damage it. It might even, snap on you, and I don't want that to happen, so I tie it nice and loose, nice and soft. And there's the next one up. That one's nice and loose too. It's just fabric strips. I cut them as I go and put them on there. It keeps that nice and healthy and up on the stake, nice and strong. Doesn't fight it in any way. It just kind of wraps around once in a while. I'll just put another piece of fabric. Another thing I'm doing here is I'm pruning them. Starting all the way at the bottom, you can actually see where I pruned it. Some of the larger suckers that I got a little late, but let me take it up here so it's more comfortable for me. If you look here, in between the branch here, we've got a sucker, and that's cool because this one's the terminal sucker, and I got to leave it on there. But all the way down the plant, this is the second one. I left that on too because I'm splitting the top. You don't want to leave too many suckers on your plant, so every one but those ones gets removed. So in all the crotches here, you just go and I don't even know if I have one to show you. Well, there's one tiny little one coming up, and I just pinch it and it comes right off, nice and clean. Never cut these branches, the ones with the flowers on them, then you lose your fruit. Right? And aside from the bottom couple branches of leaves, try not to cut off your other tomato leaves, because they're where the plant is actually getting its energy from. So you're saving it energy by not allowing it to grow more branches that'll fruit. But the thing is, if you just let all these fruiting branches just grow wild, you get a lot more tomatoes that don't ripen nearly as quick, and some of them never do. So I like to get the big tomatoes, and you get more big tomatoes doing it this way, in my opinion. and your plants are healthier too. So, fertilization. You should definitely give your tomato plants good soil, not too high in nitrogen. Of course, they'll need some nitrogen, but you don't want to overdo it, because if you overdo it, your plants just they stay really green and they don't produce anything. But if you don't overdo it, then you get nice plants and you get a lot of fruit. And the chemical fertilizers, I find, give you a really shitty tasting tomato. Like if you just use Miracle-Gro or chemical slow release fertilizer, I find it ends up tasting a lot more like it does out of the grocery store anyway. So why not just do it organically? So mix good stuff into the soil, like a good source of calcium. You put some kelp in there. Another thing to do is to water a little bit of molasses in there, maybe once a week. That feeds the beneficial stuff in the soil, and it also gives your plants some carbohydrates and energy and stuff like that. But you don't want to overdo your molasses either. The most you can put per gallon is maybe a teaspoon of molasses, but personally I just put about a tablespoon for every 5 gallons, and I figure less is more. The plants really like that. Bat guano too. When you first plant them, you give them a little bit of the grow bat guano, and later on you give them some of the fruit bat guano. And that stuff you can overdo it if you want to. I don't care. Maybe not on the grow, but because it's higher in nitrogen, it won't burn your plants like worm castings or some of the other ones. Is really good for that. But try to stay away from the fresh manure. You'll get too high of a nitrogen in the fresh manure. Aged manure is fine, but don't overdo it either. Yeah, so we've covered why you stake them. You could do this with little pieces of bamboo like me, or whatever you want, as long as your plants are well supported. I'm not too I don't know, I'm not really trying very hard. My plants are holding themselves up mostly. Initially I tied this one a couple at the bottom times, and then all the way up here. Doesn't seem to need it, but if it does come too far away, I'll just tie it loosely on. It goes for the rest of them too. Not too concerned. Yeah, I hope those tips are good for you. Oh, another thing. Try not to handle your plants when they're wet. Okay.